Some viewers are advised that this video may contain images that are disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Does Islam give equal rights to women? Today we have these modern Muslims who blatantly claim that Islam gives most rights to women. The statement is a little vague, as we don't know if they are making this claim against other religions such as Christianity or Judaism or Hinduism, or just with today's social standards. It might be true in case of comparing with other religions, but in case of today's modern social values, it is definitely based either on ignorance of their own religion or just a blatant lie. Let's analyze these rights of women in Quran. But those wives from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them, then, if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them. Quran 434. Now these are some amazing rights given to women in Islam. So basically it says if your wife is arrogant or disobedient, according to some other translation, you can first tell her off, then stop sleeping with her, and then as a last resort, beat her up. I can't imagine how anyone with sane mind can call it equal rights. We have heard the counter-arguments of Muslims. They love to say that, well, if you have a disobedient child, what do? You have to physically discipline a disobedient child, don't you? These Muslims fail to understand that a woman is not a child, unless you have a child bride, which is a terrible moral crime on its own. A grown-up married woman is just as much of a human as her husband, hence you can't compare a woman to a child. In fact, you should never even beat up your disobedient child, as modern psychology has shown plenty of evidence of adverse effects on children exposed to violence at an early age as compared to those who are not. Well, this verse alone gives a blanket right to husbands to beat up their wives if they are disobedient. Who decides a woman is arrogant or disobedient? If she says today, I was so tired that I couldn't make you dinner, honey. Okay, let's beat her up. If a husband verbally abuses her and she shouts back, well, this is a form of arrogance. Let's beat her up. Quran is vague on this. However, why wouldn't men take this to their advantage? This is not to say that domestic violence only happens in Muslim worlds. Perhaps it's a given that a stronger person will always use his or her force on the weaker one. Hence, we have plenty of cases of domestic violence in all societies. But at least in the Western world, it doesn't legitimize it. If a Western man beats up his wife or a girlfriend, he goes to jail. In the Muslim world, if a husband beats up his wife, he goes scot-free, as it is permitted in Quran. Let's look at some of the statistics of domestic violence in my country of birth, Pakistan. According to a study carried out in 2009 by Human Rights Watch, it is estimated between 70 to 90% of women of Pakistan experience domestic violence. This could mean 70 to 90% of women have been at least slapped or punched by their husbands at some point. It is also estimated that close to 5,000 women die every year due to domestic violence, with thousands more disabled permanently. Unfortunately, Pakistan was rated the third most dangerous country for women, and nothing was done until recently when a domestic violence bill was introduced. As expected, this bill faced a lot of opposition from the religious groups, as they saw this bill anti-Islamic, which is obviously true. If Quran permits you to beat up your wives, then how can the government tell you otherwise? See the problem with Islam? If you beat up your wife, you're just a Muslim following Quran. Luckily, the world is changing as a result. We had this bill for domestic violence passed in Pakistan in 2012. That was just about domestic violence. What about rights of women? Let's look at some other misogynistic Quranic verses. For the male, what is equal to the share of two females? Quran 4:11. So if you have a son and a daughter, when a father dies, son gets two portions and the daughter only gets one. This terrible verse keeps on going in other scenarios as well, where women are always at a major disadvantage. So what about women's intelligence? Let's check out this verse. And if there are not two men available, then a man and two women from those whom you accept as witnesses, so that if one of the women errs, then the other can remind her. Quran 2:282. So basically it says two women are equal to one man. This verse has been used as an indicator that women are mentally inferior to men. How amazingly the creator of the billions of galaxies says, if one woman errs or forgets, then the other woman can remind her. What about if that man errs or forgets? Who is to remind him? As far as we know, dementia is equal in both men and women, and it doesn't kick in until the later stages of an individual's life anyway. These were just three Quranic verses. There are quite a few more verses along with hundreds and hundreds of hadiths that are systematically misogynistic and even worse than these Quranic verses. So we have established three basic rights for women in this glorious religion. You can beat up your wife. You can discriminate her against her male counterparts in the case of property inheritance. Women are mentally inferior and dumber than men. Without going further in these hundreds of misogynistic hadiths, let's look at just one of them. This was quoted by Aisha. The things which annul the prayers were mentioned before me. They said, prayer is annulled by a dog, a donkey, and a woman if they pass in front of the praying people. I said, you have made us, i.e. women, dogs. I saw the Prophet praying while I used to lie in my bed between him and the Qibla. Whenever I was in need of something, I would slip away, for I disliked to face him. Sahih Bukhari, Volume 9, number 490. How you interpret this hadith, it's entirely up to you. So next time when someone tells you that Islam gives rights to women, just educate them on these three basic rights. You will hear all kinds of justifications and mental gymnastics from these apologists, but you will find none of them remotely convincing.